Did you know before Brendan Fraser would fight mummies, he butted heads with Frankenstein? The setup is simple. A reporter shows up at a legendary director's house for an interview. He can ask as many questions as he wants, under one condition. He must remove one piece of clothing. Who is this dirty old man? He's the filmmaker behind this iconic movie. But wait, how does Brendan Fraser fit into all of this? Gods and Monsters is a semi-autobiographical film starring Ian McKellen as director James Whale, the legendary director behind the 1930s Frankenstein and The Bride of Frankenstein, James Whale, who was a very unique individual in the fact that he lived openly as a gay man, which was very uncommon for the time in which he worked. Gods and Monsters follows Whale in his now retired life, but he soon becomes fascinated with a new gardener played by Brendan Fraser. And then an unlikely relationship starts to form. Gods and Monsters is a really entertaining film that touches on aspects of old Hollywood, films about making movies, and of course, a big part of gay history. And if you are interested in watching this movie, I'm gonna have a link somewhere you can stream it. Now, I'm gonna be talking about this film with a little bit of spoilers, but of course, how much can you spoil in talking about someone's actual life? But just know that you have been warned. Now, growing up, I had always seen this poster in like video stores, but I had like zero interest in watching it because, with all due respect to the people who designed the poster, it doesn't do a great job explaining that this film is about the gay filmmaker behind Frankenstein. So had I known that, I probably would have seen this film a lot sooner, but I didn't. But now I'm glad that I was surprised in watching this film and learning about this man. And from what I've read about the actual person, James Whale, that he actually was openly gay back in the 30s, which was really rare. I mean, he wasn't going out of his way to tell the newspapers, but everyone around him, by all accounts, knew that he was gay and he was with male partners. So it is incredibly inspiring that this person just, were dealt the wrong hand in life and born at the wrong time, but they just said, F it, I'm just gonna live my life my way. And he was able to be a successful Hollywood filmmaker while also being who he was. And Ian McKellen plays the title role here of James Whale. And if you needed any further evidence that Ian McKellen is a fantastic actor, then look no further than this film. Of course, he already steals the show in the iconic roles of Gandalf and Magneto, but here he actually gets to be center stage and really get to spend the most amount of time with him. We get the opportunity to get to really know this character. And the way that he plays him, you really do feel it's a really lived in person, and you feel the compounded events that happened in his life are all being embodied in his performance, in the way that his facial reactions and the intensity in his performance. And we do get flashbacks to cue us into where he came from and how he is the way that he is now in this retired state. But we slowly, just throughout the movie, get little drippets of what happened to him. But at the heart of this film is this relationship that develops between him and this new gardener that he has. And this gardener is played by actor Brendan Fraser. And Fraser does such a good job here playing this kind of aloof, charismatic guy that is complicated in a lot of his own ways. But from what I read, this character is completely fictitious in terms of it being someone that was actually in James Whale's life. But I think the filmmakers probably wrote this character in to work as a surrogate for the audience to really be invited into this film director's world and learn about him. But having said that, a lot of the movie has to do with these dialogue back and forth sequences between James Whale and the gardener character, which I can't remember his name right now. But it's a lot of that performance, and we really do get to see these two great actors just kind of go back and forth in these really compelling, interesting dialogue exchanges about each of their lives and how it kind of informs who they are today. And of course, the story of Frankenstein is one that at this point has been told countless times. Obviously, the one that everyone knows when you say the word Frankenstein is that iconic image of him with the bolts and the flat head. And according to this film, that is based off the designs and sketches of James Whale, which is just a fantastic thing to know that this gay man is behind one of the most iconic movie monsters of all time. Of course, every Halloween, you see this image. He is kind of like this staple of horror and monsters. And that is a piece of information that I did not know about. And I love that this movie not only told me about it, but was also honoring James Whale by showing the impact that he had. But I want to also say that this film does go into some very dark places that start and are foreshadowed at the beginning, and then they kind of show their head at the very end, and we get to kind of see that this is not very much a happy ending kind of film. This is very much, I would say, a tragedy. But even though the film does end in a sort of tragic way, I do think that the film overall honors the life of James Whale, a life that was completely against the status quo and was one that was really just relishing in the value of just being an artist and being happy with being in your own skin. And of course, many people have tried to read into his films and see if there was any queer subtext that was thrown in there. Of course, who's to know but James Whale himself. But I do think that's an interesting perspective that maybe even if he didn't intend it to be, maybe subconsciously those things can kind of work their way into the film. And now let me leave you with some stupid little connection. Brendan Fraser would go on to be in a movie called The Whale, which is about a gay man, and here he's befriending a man named James Whale. You see how these connections make their way through the cinema mind? Just stupid, just stupid.